Bathurst, Le Mans, Monaco, Indianapolis. Some of the biggest races in the motorsports world. Certainly the biggest in their own respective series, but motorsports are weird. Whereas other sports' biggest events, like the Super Bowl, crown the season's champion at the tail end, all of those races that I just listed take place mid-season. Some award extra points, but if it wasn't for their prestige, they would be lost amongst all the other stops on the schedule. Like I said, motorsports are weird. And if you want to get weirder, then look no further than at a series that seems to embrace its weirdness. The NASCAR Cup Series races on literally any type of track, lets in any discipline of driver, has a bracket-style elimination playoff championship system. It's weird. And one of the biggest abnormalities, one they make sure to underline, circle, put up in lights annually, is that their biggest race comes at the very beginning. It didn't used to be this way. Once upon a time, this race would play second fiddle to the actual opener at Riverside Raceway. But after that track started getting phased out and the new season opener took its rightful place, the Daytona 500 was declared as one of 4 crown jewel races of stock car racing. And make no mistake, it is the biggest one by a country mile. In attendance figures, TV ratings, public perception, but most importantly, to the drivers. Don't get me wrong, winning the season's championship is a big deal. It's the whole reason you compete through the whole year. But you might be surprised at how many drivers would trade that championship if only to lift the Harley J. Earl Trophy. Even as a lesser-known driver, especially as a lesser-known driver, a win in this single race can define your whole legacy. Trevor Bayne won it at just 20 years old, and while the career that came after could only be described as forgettable, he'll always have this. He'll always be known for this. That's what it means to win it. There's a reason why, even now, with less teams showing up on a weekly basis than ever before, this is the only race of the year where some cars don't even qualify. There's a reason we refer to it as the Super Bowl of stock car racing. The Daytona 500 lives up to its name not just through pageantry and pizzazz, but also because it is far and away the most storied race in NASCAR history. Its very first running in 1959 ended with the first ever photo finish. It produced the sport's craziest finish in 1976, and then somehow outdid itself 3 years later during NASCAR's first ever live TV broadcast. Darrell Waltrip's 1989 triumph is still the hardest anyone's partied in victory lane, and the 20-year struggle of Dale Earnhardt trying to win this race overshadowed every single one of his 7 championships. That's what it means to win it, which is reflected by how fiercely the drivers fight for it. If we look at the margin of victory in every Daytona 500 since NASCAR adapted electronic timing and scoring back in 1993, you'll see that the winner of this race only wins it, on average, by about 0.16 seconds. That is the closest average margin of victory of any race on the schedule, if we ignore the other 3 plate races. By the way, the average margin of the fall Talladega race is less than 1/10 of a second, but that's not what I want you to look at. I want you to look at this. In the past 10 years, the average margin of victory in the Great American Race has been 0.134 seconds, even shorter than the overall average, but this number only accounts for 5 of the past 11 500s, because the other 6 have all ended under a caution for a wreck. In fact, this single event has had more race-ending wrecks than any other race in the same time span, which frankly sucks. For a race known for having incredible, close, explosive runs to the checkered flag, this race has actually become explosive. In the same time span, since 2014, this race has demolished, are you ready for this? 168 race cars. That is well over 1/3 of the cars that have been run in this race wrecking out of it. Your odds of winning it may be only about 1 in 40, but your odds of crashing out of it are only about 2 in 5. Which means you are about 15 times more likely to wreck out of the Daytona 500 than you are to win it. And therein lies the cruelty of this race. You're not just fighting to make history, you're fighting to survive. And I've got one last little nugget for you to snack on. In every Daytona 500 since still 2014, the last quarter of the race has seen the same number of cautions as the other 3 quarters, not counting rain or stage cautions. They don't exist, fuck them. This means that the last 50 laps see just as many incidents as the rest of the race, and usually end up destroying a lot more cars. So why is that? After running most of the race unscathed, why mess it up at the very end? Well, anyone who's familiar with any kind of competition knows the rubber band effect. How as the leader's gap grows and time ticks away, the pressure to perform mounts on those in chase, and usually inspires better performance. It's how the 49ers came back from 17-0 to win the 2013 NFC title game. It's how the Lions came back to win 21-0 in a 2014 game in London. It's how the Patriots came back from 28-0 to win the 2017 Super Bowl. And it's how the Vikings came back from 33-0 to mount the biggest comeback win in NFL history. And in each of those examples, the quarterback on the losing team was Matt Ryan. I know I got a little sidetracked, but that man forced me to watch the worst football game I've ever seen. I can dunk on him if I want. The point is that as a rubber band stretches more and more, it increases the strain that will eventually pull it right back into place. And NASCAR drivers feel it too. As the laps tick down to the 20s, then the 10s, and then to single digits, you realize something. You're probably not going to win from back here. So you get desperate. You start making riskier moves, start blocking everyone in your mirror, try to push through people instead of with people, which could work in theory if literally everyone around you wasn't trying to do the very same thing. So you've got 30 drivers, all of which would probably run over their own mother to win, trapped in a confined pack of cars, running out of time, hurtling toward a wall, and covering a football field every second. What do you get? The rubber band snaps.
Kurt Busch! Around off the bumper of Blaney. Benedetto! And everybody.
Good. Oh, no.
Trouble.
Correct.
Well, there goes half the field.
But this is where motorsports deviate from other sports. If a lead in any other competition is based on points, then a lead in racing is based on intervals, the amount of distance between each car. But whereas NFL officials wouldn't just level out each team's points after every blown whistle, unless Patrick Mahomes is on the field, that's essentially what NASCAR officials have to do. Whenever there's a yellow flag, the rest of the field is brought up right behind the leader, and any advantage they might have built for themselves is eviscerated by something they had zero control over, and thus the rubber band is taped up and returned to its original form, just waiting to be stretched again. The past 7 Daytona 500s have experienced such a phenomenon, having a big wreck within the last 10 laps of each and every one, usually setting up a 2-lap dash to the finish, but you'd be surprised how quickly a rubber band held together by tape will snap again. And such has been the case for the past 5 years. 5 straight Daytona 500s that, regardless of the quality of the race as a whole, have exposed the depths of desperation drivers go through when a chance to make history lies just ahead. After a 23-car pileup took out most of the race's original leaders, Ross Chastain was left up front to fend off teammates Alex Bowman and William Byron, but his outside lane struggled, falling 4 cars behind the leader with just a lap and a half to go. But here's where that rubber band takes effect. The outside formed up and they began to make a run. They made it to 4th, then 3rd, then 2nd, but right as the lead was within Chastain's grasp, Byron blocked him, and once again, the band snapped.
1 lap to go, sponsored by Credit One Bank, and away they go! That is Cindric into Chastain.
It was almost a great move, and the only one he could really make. If he lifts, he gets run over. If he goes high, he gets hung out to dry. If he pushes Byron, he loses. He made the only possible choice he could, and he knew it.
I can go to sleep tonight knowing that I took the white flag, making the move to win the Daytona 500.
But nevertheless, his race would end getting spun off the bumper of another car we'll see again very soon, and William Byron, under the yellow flag, would cross the line and take the win. After another late wreck, this one in NASCAR overtime, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who hadn't won a race in 6 years, was P1 for the restart. He was able to establish a solid lead with 1 to go, but leads at Daytona don't last. For a moment, it seemed like he would get swallowed up by the rest of the field, but instead he held the bottom, took the push, and the rest took care of itself.
Larson tried to go to the middle. Oh, he got turned.
Larson Pastrana in the fence.
In probably the most anticlimactic way to end such a race, the guys racing for 7th spoiled the whole party, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., once again under the yellow flag, would cross the line and take the win. This time they'd actually make it to the line, but not without another wreck, with who else but Ricky Stenhouse getting caught right in the wrong place. Don't worry, Ricky, your time's coming. For now, Austin Cindric would lead the field to another NASCAR overtime, but this time the lines were stagnant, neither one able to find an advantage. That little jump on the restart proved to be the difference maker, as a Daytona 500 win lay just ahead of the rookie Cindric. The only problem is he had to sacrifice his teammate Ryan Blaney to get it.
Way up high to block Ryan Blaney, and at the line, Cindric beats Bubba Wallace by half a car length, and they crash going into turn 1.
Fun fact, his only 2 wins to this day have both come at the expense of Ryan Blaney, and while Ryan was left to fume, Austin, this time under the checkered flag, would take the win. Now, this is an interesting one because there was no overtime, no mad dash to the finish. The green flag had been out for over 60 laps, but since it was so hard to make runs, the field stayed mostly single file until there was just 2 to go. Although these guys back here didn't seem too keen on making a move. Instead, it was the Penske duo, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski, who seemed to have it made on the white flag lap. But third place driver Michael McDowell had other plans.
Whoa! Teammates!
Around they go in a hard crash. Kyle Busch.
Kyle Larson.
Caution is out.
Thankfully, everyone was okay, but understandably, NASCAR threw the caution immediately. The good news? Michael McDowell collected his first career win. The bad? We have yet another Daytona 500 ending under yellow. In some cases like this, despite the blatant severity of the wreck, people complain about NASCAR not letting them race back to the line. But in this case, most fans had no objections, partly because, Jesus Christ, Brad Keselowski exploded, but also because it was still fresh in our minds what had happened the year before. Hey, guess what? There was another late wreck and another late restart in the Daytona 500. This time, it was Denny Hamlin, already a 2-time winner of this race, leading 1-time winner of this race, Ryan Newman, around to the white flag. But Newman's teammate just gave a big ol' push to fellow Ryan Blaney. And first Ryan Newman, knows it's coming. So he drops back, takes the push, and takes the lead. With less than half a lap remaining, all he has to do is block whatever semblance of a run that Blaney and Hamlin can conjure. Whether they go high, whether they go low, no matter what happens in his mirror, all he has to do is block. Snap.
Crash into the wall, into the air goes Newman.
Upside down.
In a shower of sparks on his roof, Ryan Newman comes across the line, 4th.
This was the night that NASCAR stood still. Even in the moment, people on site and all across America couldn't look away. As safety crews swarmed and Denny Hamlin did a rather distasteful donut in the infield, all we could do was watch and keep watching until the broadcast had to be cut, with minimal word on Newman's condition. Given the setting, the situation, and the last time something like this had happened, I don't think I need to explain why everyone was so worried, but thankfully, he would be okay. Just 2 days after the crash, a video was posted of Ryan holding his daughter's hands walking out of the hospital. An absolute miracle. After already enduring a vicious lick into the wall, he had to take a 2-ton, 200-mile-per-hour battering ram right to the head. The man had to endure quite possibly the scariest accident the sport had seen in almost 20 years. But he did what he had to do. He put everything on the line because that's what it means to win this race. So for those keeping track, that's 5 years, 5 Daytona 500s, 5 race-ending crashes. Now, this is nothing new. The spring Talladega race has experienced the same phenomenon in the same time span, but has also destroyed considerably less cars and dashed considerably less dreams in the process. Winning Talladega means a lot, but Daytona just means more. And you can see it in the drivers' faces, not the one in victory lane, but the ones on pit road, the ones burdened with anguish, frustration, betrayal, anger, and guilt. And you don't have to look far. It can be seen everywhere, from the ones who never even got a shot to the ones who couldn't have come closer. To some, it's their greatest achievement. To others, an inescapable asterisk, one that follows you no matter what the rest of your career entails. It's the race where the losers lose the most, and where sometimes not even the winner can celebrate. It truly is the most unrelenting stop on the NASCAR schedule, one that, if you don't conquer in due time, could haunt you for the rest of your life. But then again, doesn't that just make it mean more?